Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the next Gallagher Training Team webinar. The training will start in a moment with Mr. Ian Gallagher presenting site plans, the creation and configuration of a site plan. Over to you, Ian.
Thanks for that, Craig. Okay, so what we're going to do this time is we're going to look at how to configure a site plan. Now, I'm back here looking at my standard alarm viewer. If we have just a quick recap on what we did last week, which was how to operate a site plan. On my site plans tab here, if I click on that, I go to my default site plan. If I click on my main site here, I can come into that main site. I can see my control panel. If I click on the control panel, that's going to come up to control panel. So we're going to create one of these. If I back out of that, I can go to my building. This building at the moment is showing the ground level. If I can see first level, second level. So we will also create a building like this and create a site plan. So first thing we need to do is we need to go to the administrations tab, and you will see that there is a tab across here called site plans. Now, this really is reserved for an administrator or a channel partner technician. Okay, this sort of functionality is not really intended for a end user or an operator. So first thing we need to do is we're going to need to create ourselves a site plan. So we've got two controls on the left hand side here. The first one is to create a new item. The second one is to open an existing item. Because we're starting from scratch, we're going to create a new item. So we'll go for new, and to start with, we'll do our simplest site plan to start with, which is a panel. So if we create a new panel, now we're going to call this new panel a demo panel, just so we separate it from the site plans I've already got in my system here. You can see there are several additional settings down here. So we've got division we can set, parent site plan, icon set if you need to choose a different icon set for your site plan, and background image. So just for the panel, we're going to keep it very simple. We're just going to leave these as default. So when I say OK, we've now got a clear white operating area. Now on the left hand side, we've got a lot more controls which have appeared. You can see these are in two rows, two columns. And the reason for that is to do with my screen size. So we've got that new item, we've got that open existing item, we've got a save button. So this is just the same as a save function within Command Center. Unless you save your site plan changes, they won't be retained. Therefore, you won't be able to see them once you go to the viewer. I can save as. I can go to the properties of an object, which is how we created this panel. I can add items, which I'll come back to soon because we'll be doing that. I can add shapes, which I can associate to things. I can add a button, a specific button. So if I click on that button, something's going to occur. Add text or add a picture. An example of a picture could be something like a fire exit sign. So you could have a fire exit sign on your site plan to indicate the points where fire exits are. You can see there's some grayed out items a bit further down the site plan, and those are because I don't have any objects selected at the moment. Therefore, I can't actually fulfill those functions at the moment. But when I do select objects or multiple objects, I can align those objects either horizontally or vertically. I can send an object to the front or the back of the image. I can use a back button or forward button. So if you create an item and maybe that setting's not quite correct and you want to just jump back to what it was previously, which may well have been the default, then you can click the back button. It's a very easy way of going back. I can do a cut and paste. I've got my selection item, which is what it's selected to. You'll see me use this when we create aperture size objects. So shapes and things to get from shape creating back to select the object. I can put on a snap to grid. So if I click on snap to grid, I can put my objects on here to a grid pattern, or I can delete. Now just be aware that this rubbish bin, the delete is a very powerful tool. It will delete the object that you have just created, or the site plan you have just created. So in this case, if I click delete here, it is going to delete the demo panel that I'm creating. It is not going to delete an object that's on that. If I want to remove an object that's on that, I should use the delete key on my keyboard. So what we'll do is we'll create, this is for our panel, so our control panel. We're going to create a couple of items on here for control. I'm just going to put some macros on here, which I've already got configured in my system to allow for a lockdown state. So we're going to add an item. By adding an item, I could start typing the name of the item, or if I click on the pull down here, instead of all items, I just typed in MAC for the beginning of macro, and that scrolled me down to macro as an object. Here's all my macros that are in the system because I've just asked for a filter. So I want to lock down my FOIA, that's the macro, and I want to cancel the FOIA lockdown. Those are the two macros that I want on this panel at the moment. I click add and close, that will put the items on here. Now if I grab them, you can see I've got two items at once. If I click on a blank space, I can now move them individually. Now I probably want to lock the FOIA down before I cancel it. Therefore, maybe I'll have the lockdown first and the cancel second. I do want to show the status of the access zone. So let's just add that one in there. Add, so it's going to be FOIA. FOIA, and everything with FOIA in the name, FOIA access zone is what we want. I could have done that by using the access zone as the filter and then grabbing it out of my access zone list, if that was easier. Now you'll see that when I put an object onto the site plan, I can move it around. We can turn on our grid. I can move it to a grid, so I can align things by the grid if I wish to. Just turn that off. I'll just put them out of alignment. I'll show you another method in a moment. So what I can also do is if I select one object, I select another object, I'll need to hold down a control button in order to be able to select both of them. I can now use my alignment tool and I can align this and bring them back into alignment with each other. I can do the same thing with these ones over here. So I can go to the alignment tool and align that vertically. So I've now got that aligned, I've now got this aligned. It puts everything into position. If I click on my access zone, for example, I can move the description of it. By default, the label is the name of the object. I can change that up here if I wish to. I can move that label to wherever I would like to have it. And you can see a little dotted line will stick to the nearest corner or change of direction within that object. So it helps me define where it is. And that just means you can space this so that it doesn't go over top of text and things. I can change my icon size. At the moment it's medium size. I can make it really small, or I can make it quite a lot bigger. If I don't want my text, I can remove that, so I could get rid of it. So I've just got rid of it, so I can just have the object. In this case, it might be useful to have the text, so I'm just going to use my back button here just to undo that last change. I could also rotate my object by using the rotation control, and that may be appropriate depending on where you're putting on the site plan. Again, doesn't seem to be quite so useful for me, so I'm just going to do the back button, maybe twice, there we go, to get it back to being square again. Okay, so that gives you an idea of a simple control panel, just putting items on there and they will operate as they should. Important step to remember, before you think you've finished, make sure you click on the save function. Now that's saved, that is a demo panel. So we're going to add another panel on here, so another new panel. This time we're going to create a new building plan. So new building plan. We're going to call this demo building. Demo building. Okay, we do want to put a background image on here, but we're going to do it per floor. So let's not put it on here, we'll do it when we get to the floors. So we'll say OK to that. Here's my new item called demo building. Right, on here we've got a variety of additional controls. So we've got this one here, which is configure floors. So if we configure floors, we've got a level 1 at the moment. So I've just clicked on the cog. I'm going to change that to ground because where I am in the world, the lower floor that's at ground level is a ground floor, whereas where you may be, it may be level 1. That's fine, you can leave it as level 1, whichever is appropriate for your location. I'm going to add a background image. Now I've got a variety that are on here because I've used this previously. In our case, we're meant to be creating a new one, so I'm going to import a new picture. Import a new picture, we'll say OK to that. It's going to go to my directory structure. Here's my old ones here. I've got another one here called demo. So let's put in, say, the ground floor, and we'll try opening that and say OK. Let's put in the ground floor now. So here is my ground floor on my plan. So that's the first level. Let's add in a new floor. So we've got a new floor up here, add the plus. New floor, in this case, is going to be level 1. We're going to put in our image. We're going to need to import that. Put in our image. And we need the first floor. Open. OK. There it is, first floor. We'll say OK to that. And there is the first floor. We'll do the same, so we'll put a total of 3 floors on here. So there's the third one. We'll add import image. Our second floor. Say OK to it. And there is a second floor. Now you can see we've got ground, first, second for our floors here. You can also see on the right hand side, we've got our zoom controls and we've got ground, first. Oop, this meant to be second floor. Looks like it actually says third because I put the wrong number in here. So let's change that back to second. Here we go. Ground, first and second. Otherwise I missed a floor number. Okay, so that deals with floors. Just close that control. Now if we go to our ground floor, we can add some objects to this view. Because I'm working on the site plan, I don't have all the controls I would normally have. To move around the screen as an operator, I would click on and off the actual plan and just drag it. I can't do it in this case, otherwise I'm going to start drawing things. If I use the shift button and I use the trackball, I can move left or right. If I use the control button, I can zoom in and out. So it gives me some control. I can also use the side scrolls as well to move. So it gives you a bit of an idea as to how you control that. Now, we want to add some objects to the site plan. So let's go to our objects. We're going to add in, say, a door. Type in door. Here we go. We've got one called foyer door. It sounds like a good idea. So here's our foyer door. Let's drag that over here. We're going to put that on that spot. We're going to grab its name. Going to move it over here because it kind of gets in the way of those other items. So there we go. There's our foyer door. We want to add in an area for our foyer area. So instead of grabbing the object, it's an area, so we want to make it into a space. So if we click on our object sizes, it's an irregular shape, so we're going to use our irregular shape here. So we'll click on that. We're going to click on the first point and next point, and just work our way around this object so we can assign the area that we want to use. When I get to the last point, I want to double click on it, and that will complete my shape. Now, if I click somewhere else, I'm going to try and draw another one of these objects. You see, if I click here, you see I'm now drawing another object, which I didn't want to do. So I'm just going to escape out of that. To change from that back to my selection tool, I need to go to my little pointer. So I'll click on the pointer, and you can see we've got a few lines out of position. I can just grab those by the corner and readjust them, straighten them out a bit if they didn't end up in the right place. So there we have our shape. We're going to assign this to being the foyer access zone. So we're going to associate that to, and I'm going to click on it, it's going to be an access zone. Go, we've got a foyer access zone. I'll select that. Now that's gone red. It's gone red because my controller is online and that access zone is in the secure mode. So red gives us a good indication that's secure. I can adjust my transparency. So if I adjust my transparency, I can make it more opaque so it's not too glaring, or I can make it less opaque. It's very, very obvious. So it depends on how vivid you really want that to be and how much detail under there do you want to see. So that's got that one. I've got my object here, I've got my name. So let's move that icon over here, say, and let's move the name a bit further over so it's a bit more helpful. It's not in amongst other items. Now you can see here that my foyer door is half hidden behind this. So when I select in this area here, I'm going to get the access zone, not the door. So maybe I really need that door to be in front of that object. So if I click on the door, I can now shuffle over here to the front or back. I want to bring this forward to the front. Now when I click on here, I'm going to get the door. And when I click somewhere else, I'm going to get the access zone. So that's pretty well what I want for those two items. We just need to add our PIR. So we're going to add an item. PIR, here's our foyer PIR. Yes, we're going to add that item. Here it is. Let's drag that up into the corner here. Let's make that icon a bit smaller so it fits nicely. Now with that PIR, we want to make this so it disappears unless you zoom in far enough. So if I click on my control, so I've got my zoom control, as I step in, you can see these percentages go up. So I want it around 140%, 148, 132. It looks like 132 is my best step. So if I click on the hide when zoomed out more, then I can mean that if I'm zoomed out from that further, it's going to disappear. So if I zoom out, you can see it disappears. So it's showing me on this design tool that it's there, but in the normal view, it would have disappeared. As I zoom in and I go past that threshold, you can see it appears. Now the exception to this will be if that object is an alarm. If that object's an alarm, it's going to stay on the top. So it's not going to automatically hide for me. You can do exactly the same function, but the other way around. So when I zoom in, I can make something disappear if I wish to, unless of course it's an alarm, and that would be clicking on this box over here. So that would hide when you zoom in more than that percentage. So that gives you a pretty good idea for the ground floor. If I go to the second floor, I'm going to add a few items on here. So I want to add, you can see I want to add my stores door. Stores door, there it is there. So let's add that as an item. Maybe make that a little bit smaller. There we go, there's my stores door. I was going to add an object in here. It's going to be a shape. This time we'll just add a rectangle because it's a very rectangular looking shape. Here we go. We can assign that to our stores access zone. Stores access zone. Maybe we need to adjust that back so it's not too bright. Maybe we need to move that. Oops, a daisy. I haven't changed that. Let me just escape. Okay, you see I've created another area here that I don't actually want. If I click on the delete button, that will delete it. You notice I did not use the rubbish bin. That would delete my entire building. So it's something which everybody discovers, usually after they've deleted a site plan they've been working on. So here we go, here's my stores access zone, and maybe I decide I don't want a label for that. So let's just get rid of that label. There we go, I don't need that label. But that's the store's door. In fact, maybe I could work without labels on this one. Here we go, I'm just going to use icons. So that gives you a bit of an idea as to what it looks like if you're just using icons. Or if we go to our ground floor, there we go, we've got some names as well as the icons in there. So we're going to save that one. Click save. Okay, so I've now got my demo panel, I've got my demo building. So I need an overall site plan to put this onto. So let's just go and create ourselves a new item, a new site map. So this is the overall plan. This is going to be my demo map. I'll say OK to it. In fact, I do want a background image of my demo map. So let's add a background image. Let's see if we can import that. And I've got my background image, which is called site plan. So I'll open that one up, say OK to it. Now say OK, and that's going to give us our new site plan with its background image. So that's our total image. Now, if I zoom in here again, in fact, just before I zoom in here, I would like to show you some of the attributes of this image. Now, the images that I've been bringing in to my system have been pre-configured. You'll notice I just went to a file directory and I picked them out of a file directory. That's because prior to this discussion, we've been through and we've trimmed out images or plans of the area that we want to make our site plan. So here we've got an area of the buildings. We've got some car park space. We've got an entrance to it. Yes, there is a bit of other additional items, but it is limited. And you'll notice that when we're in the buildings, here, a lot of the detail has been trimmed out. Now, even more of this detail could be trimmed out if that was desirable. So it's really down to you as the designer as to how much detail you have on there. Now, modifying or editing of these images, that's something that's outside Command Center, so you'd use a separate program for it. It's very common for people to use CAD type drawings for a building. And if you've got CAD type drawings for a building, it's likely to have a lot of additional detail on it. So maybe you end up with an electrical layout, maybe you end up with a lighting plan, maybe you end up with a variety of pieces of hardware in there. And it's up to you to maybe turn some of those layers off or trim out some of that clutter, because how much detail do you really need before you start populating the plan? So trimming it out so it is much lighter is a better option for most site plans. Okay, let's go back to our demo map. I'm going to add in my plans. So we've got, to start with, we've got our panel. Our panel's a very simple item. So we're going to add an object. In fact, yeah, we're going to add an object in here, and we're going to add in, oops, there we go, demo panel. Control panel, that was the one that was on the one we've done previously. So we're going to add in our demo panel. Here's the object here. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to drop it down in size, and I'm going to move its name out of the way because otherwise it gets a bit in the way. So there we go. That's nice and easy. That's just a site plan sitting on top of another site plan. So when we're using it, we can click on it and just go straight into it. Alternately, we want to embed a site plan. So the embedding method is a little different. You'll notice on the add item, I've got another control here, add embedded site plan. So fine, we'll add an embedded site plan. we're going to add in the demo building. That's the one we worked on. Now it says the demo building doesn't have an outline. Do we want to create one now? Yes, that seems like a good idea, so we can put it in there. And the system gives you a small animation to say this is what you need to do to create a building outline. Okay, nice and easy. So I'll say okay to that. It's actually already brought us back to that plan. So we need to create an outline. It's on the, you've got the floors. It's actually automatically selected the building outline function. So that was beside the floors function. So if we click on a corner, we can click on another corner, another one. I'm just moving my pointer up here and it's moving it out of the way so I can get to all the corners. Now if I double click, that completes my building. That's my building outline. Let's save that. Let's go back to our demo map. And here is our object, which is actually automatically placed on there for us. Now, we do need to grab it by the corner and resize it. So you can see that it is bringing it up closer to size. Now this extra area around it is so we can have objects which are directly outside the building. You may recall that we put one of our areas directly outside the building. So we do need to allow for that. And we can try and size this appropriately to fit over top of the object. So there we go, there is our building. It does have a name on it on the corner here, so we probably don't need that. We can probably just delete that. Here we go, so we just got the building and we've got our demo panel. So let's save that. Okay, so I'll check on our three objects. We've saved our most recent one. Our demo building has been saved. Our panel has been saved. So we've got all levels that we wanted to configure on our system, which is great. The only problem is we can't actually see it from an end user point of view yet. So if we go to our viewers, let's create ourselves a new viewer because this sits on our old site plan, not our demo site plan. So if we go to viewer configuration, we can add a new viewer and we're going to make a new site plan viewer. And we're going to call this one demo. Demo viewer, that sounds good. Okay, we'll click on that. Now we do need to assign operators who can see this. So we're going to assign this to operator groups. We're going to add in the operator group we're a member of, which is our system engineers on this particular system. We'll say okay to that. We also need to say, so what is the base site plan? When we clicked on that home button, when we looked at last week at the controls, it went straight back to a certain site plan. So if we click configure in the middle here, the home site plan is, let's select it. So it was our demo map, wasn't it? That was a total one because we had a demo panel, our demo building, and the demo map was the overall one that things were on. So we'll say okay to that, close. So that's what our site plan is going to look like. So let's save that. As per any viewer, let's go up to the top right, right click, reload the viewers. We'll say okay to it. Now our new demo viewer is going to appear. Here is our demo viewer. You can see we've got this door which is an alarm. Now it's coming up and it's pulsating, so is our entire building. If we click on this, we can see that door open has been open too long, so we can acknowledge that. Oh, we've got another alarm here by the look of it. So let's click on that. We can see access denied. Yeah, okay, let's acknowledge that one too, shall we? And now it's back in the normal state. So when I zoom in, it's still there because we haven't dealt with the alarm, but there's our zoom in. And when we zoom in far enough, we can see our PIR. When we go to level 2, there's our stores area. When I hover over it, it tells me the name, but it doesn't have the labels on it as we did in our design. If I zoom out, we can see here's our demo panel. When I click on that, there's our demo panel. I can lock down the foyer by running that macro. That's locked down. If I just pop back here, we can see our access zone has gone grey, which is the lockdown color. Hovering here tell us we're in lockdown. So let's just go back. I can cancel the lockdown by running that macro, and the lockdown's cancelled back to normal. So that gives you a bit of a briefing on laying out a site plan and how do you layer it, how do you make it all work. So we've just got a slide here for you to have a think about. Do you have any particular questions with regard to this configuration I've gone through? And I'll go through those in a moment. So we'll just give you a few moments to think about some questions and maybe type them in if you have some. Okay, so it looks like we're back here again. So we'll just see if we can answer a couple of these questions. So first question's on here. I actually just put a quick answer in there to the first one, which are what picture formats work in Command Center. So PNG, JPEG, bitmap, DXF, and PDF are all valid formats. So if you've got images which are in a different format, then you'll need to put that into a suitable graphics program and save it as one of these formats to put it into Command Center. So it'll accept any of those. Now we've got a couple of useful tips that have been given to us, so that's really helpful. So the basic hotkeys for copy and paste and back also work. Yep, okay, so that's hotkeys on the keypad. If you're unsure of some of the hotkeys, then probably a quick look on the help file is probably a good way of getting a refresher on that one. When creating an irregular shape, if you hold down the control button, the lines will lock at 90-degree angles. So another good one, if you're trying to work your way around those shapes, you're having a bit of trouble getting the corners and things, then that may be a quicker way. Certainly with a bit of practice, you'll get pretty fast at working your way around irregular objects. You can also drag and drop FT items onto the item list, so that would be down from other items where you can see them. Yeah, so instead of selecting them, you can just grab them, drag them across, and put them on the list. So it looks like that's about all our questions, and in fact a couple of little tips there for the time being. So what we'll do is we'll carry on and we'll have a look at some of the other functionality that we can do. So we're looking at a viewer here. In fact, if I just zoom into my building, you can see when I click on the foyer door that my controls open to the right, and my schedule for the access zone opens to the left, and controls open to the left. If I go up to level 2 and look at my stores door, this is the default as to where the controls go to. If I click on my access zone, this is the default for the access zone. But our stores door happens to be a T11. That's a rectangular reader with no keypad or no pin pad on it. Yet I've got overrides for card and pin or code only. Well, I can't put a code in. So maybe we could adjust these controls to make them a bit more useful. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our administration tab. In our site plans here, we are going to create ourselves a new object. So it's going to be a new item. This time it's going to be an item menu. So new item menu. So first of all, we're going to do doors. So I'm going to click on the pull down. I just typed in door so I could get down to doors without having to search for it. Now for every object menu item, there are two states. So there's a normal state for it and there is an alarm state for it. You need to define both of them if you're going to create a new item menu. So we'll start off with a normal state for a door. You go to the next tab. It says, okay, there's our properties. We're going to leave those as they are. The items on there, these are the unassociated items. So these are all of the doors which are available within our system. You can see that the foyer door's got a red indicator on it. This indicator says it's already associated with a new special item, and that's fine. That's why the foyer door indicated to the right. So we're going to add this to our stores door. We're going to click add. It disappears off this list. and it will appear on the associated item list. So it appears on here. So we'll say OK to that. And this is what the system will look like when you first open it. So when you click on the object, this is what it will look like. It will open left and open right. You can click on each of these to configure them, or if you don't want the functionality, you can delete the functionality. So last access by, if I click on the configure, at the moment it shows the image being the photo personal data field and contact one being the phone number. The reason for that is because I configured that for the foyer door, so it's copied it across. By default, these would be none selected. So if I click on it, I can change that to a different personal data field. Excuse me. Change it to a different personal data field, or I can have a second contact here if I wish to. So it just shows you where the controls are, so that when somebody badges on there, you can see the last person through the door. Sorry, badges and go through the door, you can see the last person through the door. If I don't want a certain control on there, I don't want operators to be able to open this door for people, then I can delete that control. I just delete it. I've got my sample item on here. I can allow them to run reports if there's some configured. If I don't want them to run reports from this viewer, then I can delete that control. If I want to add controls in fact, firstly, let's move this one over here. We'll put this one on top of this item. So if I just hover over it, it's going to click it on top of that item and click them together. Now with a door, often if you have a camera system and you want to see the camera image, because we had that question last week, how do I put a camera image on there? Well, if you click over here to the add controls, I can add various controls on here. So if I want to add a camera, I can add a camera, and this was what the drag and drop discussion was. I can add a camera, assign the camera number, assign the display controls. Yep, there we go, there's a camera. Or I can add a camera here, and in fact I'll need to drag that. Let's make that camera number 2, shall we? I'm just assuming what the camera is because I don't have any cameras in my system. So there's 2 camera images. Or if I grab this one, I could drag that and put that on the bottom, so these 2 camera images are aligned. So it's really down to what type of doors do you have? How many camera images do you have at each door? Maybe you have 3 different door configurations. One for no cameras, one for a single camera, one for 2 cameras. And you just associated the appropriate doors so you get the right controls. On my system, I don't actually have any cameras, so I'm just going to delete these because I don't need these in my configuration. So this gives me my first set of settings. I'm going to save that. I need to create another door item menu, so I now need to create another item menu, which is going to be for a door. It's going to be for the alarm state, so it's going to look a little bit different. I'm going to change that, not just door, it's the, in fact I wonder if I changed it before. Stores door item menu. Item, let's add my stores door. We'll say OK to that. In fact, no, I didn't do that because I didn't correct it properly. Let's just go back to that item. You can see what I missed. Unassociated item, I didn't click on the add button. It's a really important step. Now it's in there where it should be. Okay, just looking at my item descriptions, this was my stores door alarm item. I just need to go back and change my main item because I didn't call it stores door, and that is likely to confuse things. Stores door item menu. That makes it a lot clearer. Okay, so this is for the stores door. So it is important when you go through, even if you do what I've just done and forgotten to name it appropriately, you can go back and correct it and then go forward again. So this is what happens when a door is in an alarm state. So accessed by, who's accessed it by? Let's check the configuration. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so it's worthwhile to check. Door open when it's an alarm state. Do I want to allow them to open the door? Override entry access. Well, maybe I don't. Okay, yes, maybe I'll allow that for when it's in the alarm state. But when it's in the normal state, they can't open the door. Okay, maybe that's suitable. Sample item, run report. Let's get rid of that because I got rid of the other one. Alarm state. Yep, when I want to configure the alarm state, am I going to allow the alarm instructions to be shown? Well, I've got them there. That's fine. We've got the alarm instructions, which are going to be here. Okay, so does that look okay? Or maybe I should really just, what if I move that down there and I move that across onto there? Does that make it look a little bit better? It's all going to be one big line. Okay, let's save that. That's for the door, stores door. Let's add a new item. I'm going to add a new item, which is going to be the access zone. So I want to do the access zone as well. The normal state. Now I'll remember to change this. It's going to be the stores door access zone menu item. We want to put the stores access zone in there. Add it. You can see you start getting a little faster at this when you've done one or two of them. Here we go. This is what the default looks like for the access zone. So you can see here I've got my schedule. I've got my sample item. Now I'm going to attach the schedule to that, I think. Seems like a good thing to do. Over here we've got a lot of functionality. So let's just click on the configure. Now this is my stores area. Do I have anti-passback working? Well, no, not in this case. So let's take that off. Let's set the zone, take the zone count off. We don't need that. Cancel override, yes. We're not going to have lockdown for the stores. Here we go. We're just going to allow cancel override. And you can say OK. So it trims that down. Again, you may remember that I mentioned that the reader on the stores area is a T11. It does not have a pin pad. So let's go in here and configure. Let's take off anything that says it has to do with a code or a pin, because you can't use a pin if you don't have a pin pad. Dual authorization. I probably don't need that either because it's not that level of store. So here we go. I'm down to free, no pin, or secure, no pin. That sounds okay. When I allow somebody to override the access zone, how long do I want to allow them to override it for? Not the next schedule change, because that's down to the technician or the operator coming back to it. So let's disable that one. Specified time, okay. Or specified duration, yep, that's okay. I don't have to have specific duration, they can set that. Yep, we'll go with that. And there we go, look, I've trimmed that right down. Let's bring it over here. Do I want to allow them to run reports? Well, maybe for the access zone, we'll let them run reports. So there we go. There's my controls. Let's put them on this side, seeing that's where the to make it a little bit clearer. Okay, so I'll save that one. Let's finally do the last one. A new item menu, which was the access zone. This one is the alarm state. So this is the stores. Access zone alarm state menu. Let's make sure we associate the stores to that one. And there it is there, it's associated to it. Okay, and again, this is for the alarm state. So let's attach that one to that one so it can be reasonably consistent. There's the alarm. Right, let's go back here and configure this. So let's take out the lockdown and the zone count. That drops down. Oops, I've already done that one. Let's go to this one. So this one here, take out all the codes and the dual authorization. 3 pin comes out and secure pin comes out, and they have to give a limited time. Okay, so that trims down a fair bit. This is a little bit bigger than the last one, so maybe we do need 2 sides, or maybe we need one that sits out from the other. Maybe that's more useful. Okay, so we'll save that. So let's just check to make sure we've saved everything. So our last item we just saved. our stores item, our other access zone item we saved, door we saved. There we go. Okay, so we're all done on that. Let's go back to our viewer. So our viewer here, you'll recall, for the ground floor, we opened to the right and we opened to the left in 2 pieces. Now when we go to level 2, the door, we open to the right as a single piece and we open to the left. Now this is not an alarm, remember, so that's why it's a single item on here and not 2 sets of items. So it gives you an idea as to how you can reconfigure these pullouts to make them more useful. So we'll just jump over to our presentation slide, give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you need to add on there, and then we'll come back in a moment or two with some answers to it. Okay, it looks like we don't have any specific additional questions compared to previous, so that basically completes our session on site plans. So hopefully that, as a relatively quick step through, gives you enough knowledge to be able to have a go at some site plans on your site, see what you can configure, give them a try, and once you've given them a try, if you're comfortable with the configuration, then you can make that more visible to a wider audience. Thank you for your attention.